And okay, we're live.
Perfect. Hello everyone. Let's start with intentions and instructions. There is no question for this week. Um, so my intention for this call is to work in the items of the agenda. Um, I feel it's more of a working session today. Sorry for the ambulance. I feel it's a working session today more than anything else. There are certain things I would love to talk about, and any instructions at the moment, no. For the first time in 2 months, I have no distractions on a Monday evening. So I'll pass it on to David.
Thanks, Edu. Yeah, Mondays they can be a handful for me too. My intentions are to stay connected to the Communitas group, the tech as a whole, and the guides role, and continue trying to develop into a useful guide for the community. Yeah, with that, I'll pass it on to let's go down the list. Gideon Rowe, just intentions, distractions, no question.
Thanks, David. My intentions are, I'd just like to sync up on kind of where we are with the kind of the next steps for Communitas. I don't know if we can do that today, bro. I think it'd be good to just kind of sync up a little, just very quickly on this buying guide thing and like how that relates to the onboarding when people are coming in. There's some things I've been thinking about in terms of like frequently asked questions and stuff like that maybe we can put into Discord. And then distractions. I don't really have a lot of distractions. Yeah. I don't know who's gone yet, so I'm gonna hand it back to you, Edu.
Yes, thank you, Gideon. Pass to you, Tam.
And I'd say my intentions are, I had to look at the agenda, so it's mostly that. I threw one more thing on. Maybe, what Gideon just said made me think a little bit about better using our automated guide. It's been on my mind that we could probably make make it a little more helpful than what we have now. But perhaps that's something we can add, to the agenda. And I will pass to Aloysius. We're just doing intentions and distractions. If you want to share.
Hello, y'all. My intentions are to get up to date on what's going on. My distractions would be my home community is going through a ton of changes, so I've had to focus a ton of attention on my home community. So that's kind of been a distraction. It's kept me from all of the other pockets that fill my cup. I've had to tune my attention to emergencies, and I haven't been able to spread my wings and play and have fun. And that's what a lot of these meetings are that are outside of that for me. So I'm pretty distracted by that because it makes it so I can't pick up new tasks at projects that I like when I hear things, and I kind of just have to listen and not get too excited because I kind of know that I have other things that will pull my attention at any given moment. So that's pretty distracting. I'm trying to keep track of the pulse here so I don't lose what's happening. That's my check-in. I don't know who to pass it to.
I take it for you, and then I pass it on to Jean.
Has David gone?
Yes, I can pass it on to Jean for you.
Thank you, Mr. Edu. Apologies for being away for about a week or so, maybe a little more. But I'm trying to get back into the swing and be helpful where I can, so I'll be trying to take some of the load off of Buddy and do some greetings and hellos. I see that TE needs some help as well, so try to spread that around. Intentions are just to catch up, and distractions are everything that's not caught up yet. So, and I will pass to.
Nancy is the last one.
Thank you.
Like to talk.
Is Easy.
Thank you. Well, my intention here is to go step by step, item by item, the agenda with you guys. And my distraction could be I received my third dosage like a couple of minutes ago, so I'm going to start to feel the effects. So thank you, Edu. Back to you.
Thank you, Janaisi. For this week, we, as Gideon mentioned, there's a bunch of stuff that we need to sort of get back on track. I had the intention to have a briefly conversation with Juanca. Last week, I asked for a cover up from Wednesday to today, and then Juanca cover up the orientation call. And yeah, I just wanted to have a brief moment with him. He's driving to drop Sam to the airport because they are in Colombia together. So that's not gonna happen today. So there's gonna be an update for orientation call most likely, and Juanca will be probably part of that feedback. And then we can move on to the next topic, which is how to best communicate to the community. I guess Tam, you added this one.
Yeah, sorry, I added that because our, the One Hive Gardens, our conviction voting is not working right now, and Gardens is aware of it and working on a fix. But I was wondering, I don't know if other people other than me tried to do some voting over the weekend and weren't able to. The transparency working group funding proposal had passed and it was executed and the funds are in the multisig, but the status is still available to execute. So the front end hasn't changed, which means that anyone whose tokens are voting for that proposal cannot change their voting distribution. So for example, I've been trying for like 48 hours to vote for the Stewards Working Group funding proposal and I can't because all my votes are tied up with the Transparency Working Group funding proposal. So I don't know if there's other community members. It just sort of made me think, hey, we're gonna have these kinds of things from time to time. Conviction voting, we have a hiccup. Please stay tuned for an update. We should probably communicate this wider and maybe have a process for how to communicate interruptions to the community so that everyone can be informed and not, wonder what's happening. So that's really what this agenda is about.
Yeah, I thought about that because I tried to vote also on the stewards and they didn't allow me to vote, even though I had no allocations of my TC tokens in any other proposal. So even if I am free of voting, it doesn't allow me. At least the front end didn't show my vote count. So yeah, it doesn't work either for someone who doesn't have votes allocated. On the other hand, this comes to the concept of now what do we do? Like do we keep the concept of the hatchers or do we just change the name to token holders and for example message them through Discord when there is something like this? Like I would love to have like a channel that it's only updates like DC updates or DC token holders updates and it's just announcements on that channel that could be useful for everyone to just know where to go when there's like there's the same way that you have Twitter that when the status server the kind of status server kind of signaling that happens on Twitter, that when you want to know about a game going down their servers, you want to know about something going down, just go to Twitter because they have a server status Twitter exclusively for these announcements. So we can do similar for a channel for a server on our channel that can signal every time there's an update to be posted. Like, hey, don't vote today because the votes are not working. And it's only mainly for posting status. Does that make sense, Tam? Welcome back to the call.
Yeah, I just wonder whether general wouldn't be sufficient instead of introducing another channel. Because these shouldn't
Right.
happen so often that we want like a separate channel just for interruptions. It just seems like anyone who's in general will probably, I don't know, maybe it's in like an everybody on general or something like that.
Should also potentially keep in mind that these are open for to sales of the public, and so a more general communication mechanism besides Discord, like a Twitter, would probably be more ideal to just signal overall governance. Is that not correct?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Were you gonna say something, Gideon?
Oh, yeah, I was just kind of trying to balance the need for focus and not overwhelming people, who don't need to know about stuff with stuff that they can't act on the one hand, and then the need for transparency on the other. So like, I guess I feel like this kind of stuff. I like the idea of having some type of role for, if we could, for token holders. I just don't know if that's even possible. I mean, we probably could do some type of verification that people hold the token, because I think as we grow, we're probably going to have situations where we're going to have lots of kind of newcomers who are not owners of TEC, and yet we still need efficient ways to be able to communicate with the shareholders, the token holders. So
Yeah,
I like the idea of a role.
I agree with Gideon. And to be honest, the Hatcher role is kind of a historical footnote at this point. I believe there even it just in some respect it might even be unwanted for certain people, just because they are involved in other things now and may not want to be discreetly identified as having participated in something in the past. It just it's kind of, again, like an irrelevant historical, but no, it's always a milestone to have participated in a neat historical note, but less and less important going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I will change the name Hatcher to just token holder or any other name that could replace that. I mean, we already have the role assigned to people. The difficulty of this role is to add new token holders to the role. Like, how do we identify people who are token holders who enter the Discord? How do we identify them? Because
So
sorry.
There's a bot from guildx.xyz. It's called Medusa or Agora, I believe, and it can set a role based on a certain token holding at an address. It's one way.
I also might recommend we sync up with the reward system on this because they are implementing a tool to link your address to your Discord handle. So we'd probably use the same tool that rewards would be using to do that.
Yeah, but I think on the meantime, solving the question of how do we communicate with token holders and people regarding this, I still think the general, I see it on the help on the general channel. There are so many questions and they overlap, and sometimes it gets confusing for people, and sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's confusing. So if it is just announcements of the status of the token, I will just put it in a different channel because it's just like one way kind of communication of, hey, this is happening, be aware of this, or hey, someone's trying to steal using a Steward's name, whatever, like this kind of stuff. We can just put it there, and it's like it's not only an announcement; it's just like a status report of things people need to know. So I will say that in my case, I would like to communicate with the community from a status report kind of server within our channel within our server. Sorry, does that make sense?
I think so. I think so. I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess there's different things. There's communication with token holders. I just want to say one thing about the Hatchers. Hatchers does have like a nostalgic, it's sort of like the OGs of the TEC, so there's like this nostalgic thing to it. But I do agree that it's past its time. You know, maybe we retire Hatchers, maybe we leave it as a badge of honor to people that were Hatchers. But the token holders is different. And that's why I feel like we probably want a general announcement, like a public service announcement. If you're trying to vote, just give it a little time because it's not working yet. You know, we're making like, hey, you can use your tokens, come and vote, and then people can't. Right? So it's more like a public service announcement. If you are hoping to use your TEC to vote, just let's work out. Like let's I don't know, fix the block that's blocking it from working right now. And then there's like token holder relations, which is something different, right? That's not the general channel public service announcement. That's more like, hey, we want to tell you something specifically. So yeah,
I agree.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess for this one, I'm more okay with like, let's just let it, because I spent a lot of time this weekend being like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? So I wish somebody would be like, hey, Tamara, guess what? And just chill out this weekend. It's not going to get done. And I'm like, you know, other people might be going through that same phenomena, and it's not clear when it will be fixed yet. So maybe we say hey, it's not working. We'll let you know when it works. And then when it's working, we say, working now. Go ahead and jump on those proposals. It's just
something like that, very simple.
Simple, yeah, super simple. We know it's not working. Like that's it. We know it's not working, so you don't have to go there now. We'll let you know when it's working.
So the one question I still have is if we do so. I guess the first question is the idea of a role, a token holder role, does that make sense? And if so, you know, there are a couple options. One is with just like honor system. You know, it's like, yeah, I hope, you know, click here, click on this icon if you know, this emoji if you hold a token, and we'll assign that role to you. The probably the better way to do it would be if we can just do some type of validation, you know, looking at their wallet. I know WG probably has, I mean, there are other Discord servers that do that, so we could probably implement something like that. Those are just questions. Let me throw those out.
Yeah, it's not a complicated bot. It's free and it's very simple to set up.
So yes, there is. Thank you, Jim. As you mentioned, it's free, and the thing about the token holder kind of role or assignment, I think, as I mentioned, we need to sync with reward systems so we don't overlap, and having two for the same thing. Because if the reward system group already have an identification process for token holders, we just need to sort of build or sync with them, so we don't have two systems parallel doing the same stuff. Because I think it would be a waste of time a little bit. Just then.
Yeah, I just want to say the other ways I've seen other Discord servers use it is, you know, if you have the token or if you have a POAP or if you have an NFT or something in your wallet, it unlocks certain channels on the Discord server for you. So that's something else that in terms of our onboarding journey and experience could be interesting to, like, we can assume that will exist. Just if it's something Communitas is leading or something that Rewards is going to be implementing in the near future anyway, and we just wait for that. Yeah, it's a great idea. I guess I'm less leaning towards the idea of auto selecting whether you're a TEC token holder or not, because we may start using that role for specific things. Somehow, you know, and it seems like for unlocking channels or for airdrops or for who knows, right? And it's sort of like if you are not actually holding a token, it's very easy to game that way. So I would lean less towards that.
Yeah. I will just use the verification process of your Ethereum address, where you have token TEC tokens, and just validate that in one way or another one. Rather than clicking on a role and then getting assigned. you are applicable.
I mean, on the other hand,
Anyway.
the interesting thing about that is you're basically opting into information. I want to know information about, token holders. So that's the advantage if people can say they want to know information about it. But anyway, yeah, we can keep going.
Does anyone else have something else to want to comment on this topic? Basically, we would like someone to sync the reward system. That's it. That's the action from this item. It's if someone can go to the reward system or join a reward system poll and just get a status of how they are in this process, we can sort of see if this is doable, if it's not, if we can sync, or if it have to be built separately. So
I think
that's the
Vi is
action.
our liaison here. Vi is in both of these working groups, and he's not here today, but I can sync with him on that.
Also, MS is involved in both too. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He was going to join us today, but he got the booster this weekend, so he's sick, basically. So send him a prayer. Besides that, then we move on to guides. So guides, we are going to. There is this question, Discord and Telegram inviting people to private DMs versus providing a public response. I was not the one who added this question. You added him.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I know that there's sort of a urge to sort of help people, but maybe not do it so publicly. But we get a lot of repeat questions like, "Hey, can you tell me what you think of this business idea? Looking for a token to do token engineering projects. Need someone to do token economics." And there have been responses to these questions on our Telegram and our Discord with like, "Hey, I sent you a private DM. DM me by our guide." And so I just want to raise that as a flag. Like, one, we lose the benefit of everyone else hearing the answer. Like, we recommend you submit a forum post so anyone in our community is able to respond to your request for help, right? So nobody knows the answer, and it sort of keeps things like hidden and in the dark. So I'd like to encourage all of our guides not to ask for private DMs from people asking questions. So not to answer questions through private DM, but to answer questions publicly so that the entire community benefit from the answer.
Would it make sense to start an FAQ channel right near orientation? Just
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of these
questions. Sorry, no, that's another point on the agenda. To FAQ, we talked about it last week, and the ideal listener is to compile these questions so we get enough, and just come out with an answer. Things are very simple, like what is the contract address of the TEC token? That's something that people will probably ask a lot. Or how to add your token to MetaMask. Things like that. People like just or how do I get token economics, or how do I learn about token economics? And there are certain answers that will change. For example, like if we have a course of the Academy soon, we can just change the answer to that course, for example. If there's someone else who is offering a course, we can just add it to that. But in general, the questions are the same. So the ideal is that we could have this a channel or just a private document, however it works. So we can do it, and I think it's doable this week. This is the intention for me this week, was to work on the FAQ. So that was part of the working session for today. If you can drop in the FAQ, below the FAQ on the agenda, or in the Communitas channel, any of the questions that you think could be good to have in the FAQ, and we can do some collective intelligence to add it to the ones in the guides. It will be really helpful. So it's not to do it now, but it could be a nice exercise for everyone. For example, other issues, GNAC, any question that you have received or you have seen or you yourself have about TEC that you see recurrent or that you have been recurrently asked. If you can drop it in the Communitas text channel or in the agenda, it will be helpful. So we can build up on this FAQ in this way.
Hey, Edu, one question I have about an FAQ is, so one option would be to put it in Discord. You just have like a message there with all the stuff. But the other would be to put it in the handbook and just basically have a simple link that just takes people to the handbook. And the thing I kind of like about that is that by taking people off to the handbook, they can. It's probably easier to take in because over time this will grow and we can format it more nicely, and people can search on a web page like that. So if these things, if these questions truly are evergreen, in other words, like they keep coming back, and then I think that's probably good for the handbook. So
Yes,
that's
we already have an FAQ on the handbook. It was done previously, previous to the common software. It has been updated a long time, so it could be a really nice time for updating it. The thing is, this is a two-way street. The idea of the FAQ, whether it's in Discord or it's a private document or whether it's Gitbook, is to have also for the guides or for everyone here who answer questions randomly on their free time to have the same answer or the correct answer for these questions if you don't have it. So not only to update the Gitbook, but also to provide textbook to read for the guys who are answering the questions. So it's a both ways street. So yeah, the first exercise that we'll probably have to do is to update the FAQ on Gitbook, and then yeah, keeping top of that and updating it if it's needed, and then the guys should feed from that document.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that too, the original idea was just to have an FAQ for guides. Like, hey, these are the questions you're going to get a lot. So these are some canned answers that you can use to respond to these questions, repeated questions, but also having those questions public, like in a more formal FAQ is a great idea too. I think the urgent one is the FAQ for guides. So because I mean, I'm looking all over our Discord and it's like the same questions. And some of them aren't getting responded to because they're tricky to respond to. Actually, it's like the harder questions that are, or that we have to determine what the protocol is to do something. Things like send people to the job board if they're looking to hire somebody. Send people to the forum if they're looking to pitch an idea. Like where should we send people who are doing something? Somebody asked for a mentor, like that kind of question is like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what do we do with somebody who's like, I'm here, who can be my mentor? So a little of it is also like working with the guides to come up with answers to some of these questions. So I know, I think we're calling it a FAQ for the guides, but maybe just to distinguish that, it's more like training for guides and us ourselves understanding how to respond to new questions and repeating questions. And then the FAQ is something more that we publish for the community to use. So there's two FAQs.
Yeah, there's two FAQs, but they should be synced with each other.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with the community FAQ is like a process for updating. It's like an ongoing living process for collecting questions as they come up, especially on Discord, but all over the place, and then vetting those questions and saying, does this really rise to the level of something that needs to be in the FAQ? And because otherwise what happens is, it's 6 months later and we have a dead FAQ again. So like I think that's going to be one of the challenges. I can think a little bit about that and maybe come up with some recommendations if nobody else wants to do that.
Yeah, if you see my screen, Gideon, you can see the original FAQ, and it was divided in this section, and it needs to be updated ASAP because it no longer it's an historical document. as Jean mentioned, it's a footnote. It's a historical footnote, so it needs to be updated a little bit. And I think if you want to take on that, Gideon's suggestion of writing, it would be amazing. But yeah, this is something we need to update anyways.
I think I can. I was thinking more about the process for updating. How do we do that? But I can take a crack at that. Yeah, I mean, I think this seems more like focused on the hatch process, and what we need is like all the questions that come up with like this weekend we had this rush to try to like get some documentation for people on how to buy the TEC.
Yeah.
And so it's like trying to find those kind of similar type things, not
Yeah.
just for hatching, but for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Yeah, exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, this is just a document that was initially began with questions, and then it became a guide down the lane. But originally there were only questions, and I think yeah, we can do that perfectly for this part of the process because we have a lot of documentations already in place.
I might just want to be more clear too, like onboarding FAQ. Like, how do I participate? How do I get involved? What can I come here and ask questions for? Like the Communitas FAQ specifically. There'll be other questions about the TEC, but when people are new to the community, what their initial questions are might be something that we can focus on specifically.
And I think this goes back to the TEC guide update. A lot of these questions could be answered or linked back to the TEC guide or your guide, but because I think otherwise, I mean, we already have that in place, so we might as well use it to our advantage as well we can. All right. So there is the other point that I added on the guide. It's if we should go to a support crash course. Basically, it's a crash course for technical aspects. Very simple things like explaining stuff about the token, just basic stuff that we need to know because if we have an influx of people, there are certain knowledge about using gardens, about all these possibilities that could happen. Just a small, these very basic details. Praise, like how praise works now. I have no clue how praise works now. So like having this guide, having this technical guide crash course, just for having this knowledge and having at least a basic answer. So if you needed to forward someone to Mitch because he's expert on reward or Christopher or whoever else, you already have a basic, a basic part deployed. So that's not you sort of take out a little bit of the work. So it's a guide job because I feel we are very strong on repeating on cultural aspect, but sometimes there's little aspects from the technical part that gets a little confusing. Welcome, Ahasha. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Welcome to the Communitas Working Group. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so I've literally read 2 blog posts of yours, so yeah, this might get embarrassing. Hey, so my name is Anna. I'm from Germany, Frankfurt to be more precise, and I'm not sure what I can contribute to this, but a friend of mine told me about this group, and as I said, I've been reading a little bit about it and tried the tool, amazing. I don't know really what I've gotten myself into here, but I guess I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Yeah, I mean, all our calls are open, so don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions regarding something. This working group is dedicated to building community building exercises and cohesion and onboarding processes. So this is what we'll talk about. In the screen, you can see the agenda for today. All the links are public, and if you want to know the rest of the meeting goes also recorded and goes to YouTube. So in case you need more context, YouTube can also provide you that context. We held orientation call every Wednesday in case you want to join one and get more filled with information. So we will move on with the meeting, and you're more than welcome to stay however you want.
And where do you post the agenda link? Where can we find the link to the document you're looking at?
In every working group text channel on top, there is a description of the working group. If you click on the description of the working group in the text channel, you will see the link to the agenda.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. So that's what we were talking about. It's the FAQ guides and the technical crash course. I was going to request this from Griff and Mitch to have this at some point. Let's see how that gets developed. And yes, then we have the orientation call format change. The format change is not like a format change, it's more about an update of the orientation call. Nate is not present here today, but we talked about it last week. There are two things I want to update the orientation call. The first one is adding the token information just to bring attention to people who are new about the token. We have an economy, a life economy. Rather than a token, that we have an economy going on. And secondly, the name wanna sort of create this documentation for participation tracks. So sort of if someone joined the call and say they are interested on the reward system working group, then they will add it onto a spreadsheet or somewhere, and then we can keep track of this person's sort of growth in the community. And we will do this by areas of interest and sort of trying a beta test on this orientation call. So these two changes I would like to add. I don't know if anyone else have something else that they think they should be added to the orientation call that is not added yet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. So these two changes will probably come on next orientation call this Wednesday. So we'll see how that goes. The next topic. Hello, Letty. How you doing? Welcome to orientation. To Communitas working group call. I get confused. So we have the submission for working group funding. Tam, do you think we are ready to submit to Gardens the working group funding, or you think we need to change stuff?
So conviction voting isn't working right
You
now.
are muted, so we cannot hear you.
I was just going to say conviction voting isn't working right now.
I know, but in general sense, the proposal, do you think we're ready to
I
submit?
think we go back and have a look at it one more time. It's on the forum, and I don't think we've gotten feedback. So I think it's just a matter of finalizing the numbers, and then
Sure.
submitting it to conviction voting. I think we can do that this week for sure.
Sure. Jean and David, since you are tagged as guides, if you want to take a look at the proposal, or even Aloysius, if you want to take a look at the proposal, it would be really helpful.
I'm going to
if
drop the
you-
link to the forum in our agenda.
Perfect. I talked to you three, specifically because you have been sort of providing feedback to the working group, and I would like you to be aware of the funding proposal if you're interested in it. If you're interested, if you have feedback, whatever you feel like sharing, it would be appreciated. So that's the other one, and then asked from TE, can we help support their Discord onboarding setup? Yes, Angela just submitted this on the Communitas working group text channel. I answered her that, of course. I mean, it's for granted, and it's funny enough because this is the third request for onboarding that I had this week. I had a call today with Moonjelly DAO, and they were trying to Moonjelly DAO. It's the one from Ocean Grants, the Ocean Grants, and they call this how do you call this when you do conservation, they call it decon, the decentralized conservation process, and they are building their onboarding process, and they had a sync with them today, and they wanted to deploy the exact way we have in our Discord. They wanted to deploy the exact same process to their Discord. And they request access to understanding of how this happened or how did we develop it. So it's nice to see people trying out our onboarding process and see if it works for other organizations. They specifically like the TC, the guide and the survey. Those were the two things that these guys were more focused on. So yeah, I will sync with Angela to see when we can do this process of helping them with the onboarding process. I want to make a pause and Merd, you have joined this call a few days, but we hadn't have time to go through. I just forgot the name of the tooling that YGG mentioned, and that you are sort of leading on that effort. But I wanted to give you the floor to sort of, if you have any update, if you need any help with that, what's going on over there.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. We have just met with Mitch and Mugen today about how to kickstart a proposal inverter subgroup within TC. So I will communicate with you whenever I need, but we are now in the phase that creating a backlog ideation and sort of trying to create a team around this ideation. So this needs a little bit work more before like going people and ask for their contribution. But I think we are on good track. Good track. Like I will give my updates whenever there's new update to be need to give them. So for now, everything is good.
Perfect. And if you need, for example, any specific task or is open for contributors, if you, whatever the proposal inverter needs, you can pass it on so I can on the orientation call probably connect that option with someone who joins the call. So it's also helpful to know if you are needing any assistance or help or any specific job or task needs to be accomplished and it's open. You don't find one, you can pass it on to Communitas so we can sort of reshare that and spread the word. Just that.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about the proposal inverter is it's a pretty complicated project. And I think what Mitch and Mert are doing now is, well, Mert is, I guess, more involved because he's also very involved with PrimeDAO. Mitch is acting as a sort of like, he's doing discovery on how the TEC gets involved. It will likely result in there being a proposal inverter working group in the TEC and a proposal inverter working group in the PrimeDAO who work together but in separate parts in partnership on launching the proposal inverter as a product for communities. So it's just we're really in the early phases, and yeah, I think we can wait to see a few more weeks to see what discovery leads us.
Yeah, and also what I was planning to say that so TC's effort that will be needed in proposal inverter actually now is not very needed because the product is in very early stage. So, for example, we have talked about creating community around it and marketing it. So these are not needed yet, but we can create our roadmap. So once they need it, we can deliver the best job.
Perfect. And that it gives me the cue for the next topic, which is a roadmap for the working group. We did a session last week, Tam, where we basically asked what is your vision for the community, short term, mid term, and long term, and we passed it around. And this was the result of this little collective intelligence. So we can either have a session about it tomorrow when we have our sync, and then we can discuss a little bit about this roadmap. Basically, I see that at least on the first touch, the priority for everyone in short term was people. And people and strategy. How do we sort of strategize around people in the short term? And a lot of the mid and the long term was completely different from each one. But midterm was a lot of about keeping track and keeping this stable process going on. And then yeah, that was one that was very interesting. That was basically providing a space in the long term for people to develop professionally and matching them with the TEC. There are very interesting ideas here, which will be more interesting to match that with an action that we can execute and come out with a roadmap that is executable. Because right now this is more abstract than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be highly interesting to see how we can create a roadmap that is achievable, at least for the next 6 to year time period. And that's it. So besides that, we have the orientation data update that usually Manu will provide, but he's not here today, so we are not able to talk about that today. There are certain aspects of the orientation data that we will probably try to figure out. I don't know what is the status from the bot that BuyByV was trying to sort of automatize the process of the information. Do you have any update of that?
No, but we're doing a manual update. And we're doing it on the orientation channel. So it's sort of a CSV file gets dumped on the orientation data channel, excuse me. So that's the latest CSV of all of the survey data. Is that what we're talking about? The survey data, right? I wouldn't expect it to be automated until after the rewards bots are up. In terms of priority, it's just number two. And rewards bots are number one. So I would say is if we can use those manual exports as a workaround until it's automated, that should be sufficient actually for us. Vi can issue the command, but I think he said it's difficult for someone else to be able to issue the commands, but maybe we can get one more person to interact with the bot as well.
Okay.
And then we could just have a CSV on command. And I've been copying and pasting it to the Google Doc that we have for orientation data.
The other great idea, now that you mentioned, sorry, another great idea that Nate had, or I think it was in the Stewards, or I don't know if it was in the Stewards or in this call, was to have people sort of soft, let's call it soft guides or like low-key guides within the working groups. So that person will sort of have the basics, and that person can guide someone who, like for example, Aja, who just joined the call, and then that someone from that working group can reach them out and just like, hey, there is a TC guys. If you need any assistance, you're new to this call, send a DM and just like send them through like a generic message that someone from every, like Nate mentioned the idea of having a soft guide in every working group identified, so that person can sort of take care of people who just jump randomly in the calls, or people who seem lost on that. That's another idea that I thought was really good. Besides that, there is a lot of people asking things in general, in help, and mainly in those two channels. So if the guy is present, can also help providing answers and support with this. It will be highly helpful, and that will be much of it. I think for this week. I want to close this week with yes, Tam, go ahead.
I added something. Just reminded me actually. I know we set up the Calendly for guides for TEC orientation. I think we call it TEC orientation Calendly. I don't know what we're calling it, but how are we doing? And is it? I haven't seen it published anywhere yet, so I wonder, is it ready to be published? Do we think? Okay, go ahead. Update, please.
Yes.
It'll be cool to have that.
Yeah, it's ready to be published, but we need to add. I mean, it's not ready to be published. We need to add. Sorry, we need to add Jean, David, and Mel Manu times to the calendar, so they can sort of check which time they're available. So I have to share. I will share with I remember why, because I have to share Gmail's public kind of password. So I had to send them a personal message to a group of them and share the Gmail and the password of the calendar, so they can choose the timings and they can,
Can you? I think there's another way to do it, but I'd also like to put some of my time on there as well to be one of the people that does orientation for new people.
Sure.
I think that you can just share, like in the calendar settings, I think you can just make us all managers of the calendar without giving us the username and the password for Gmail. And then we're all managers of the calendar, and we can add to that calendar. That's cool. I'm really excited about that Calendly.
It would be nice to also have like a pay account, so we can have more option of calls. Not all of them are 45 minutes, or none of them are 1 hour. Because right now, if you don't pay, you only have one option call. So it is 30 minutes, or it's 1 hour, or it's 45, or it's whatever time you want. So for example, if it is for you, we can set it up for like times 1 hour, times 30 minutes. If you want 30 minutes about workflow or about project manager or whatever thing you want to talk specifically with you. So it could be nice to have more than one kind of call. That's the point.
I was thinking of this. Go ahead.
I think that multi-manager function is pay while tied as well.
No, I think the multi-manager is for the Google Calendar. And so it could be the TEC orientation Google Calendar, but we can all be admins of it. And that way we can all add our times without having to log in directly to that Gmail account.
Correct.
And so I was thinking of this more as not like, hey, find time with someone to ask them questions. This is like set orientation, like welcome to the TEC, you know, you need help finding your way around. And I think 30 minutes, a 30-minute orientation is pretty generous. Like one person that has like your undivided attention for 30 minutes who's going to like take you by the hand and teach you everything about the TEC. I feel like that's super generous. I don't know if we need to pay for like 45 minutes or 15 minutes or an hour. I feel like we keep it super simple, 30 minutes. You get 30 minutes with a guide or with a steward. I think the other stewards might be interested in participating as well. So we can cover more time, you know, geographically, time zone wise.
Jess, Anna, do you want to say something?
It's also really intimidating as a new joiner to really think about grabbing somebody's 30 minutes. That's crazy. Really appreciate it if I ever pull that card, but just throwing this in here.
We hope we are not intimidating enough. The idea is that we make the intro to picking the time as nicely and fully of emoticons and happy as we can, so you don't feel intimidated. But just then.
We're also already doing it. It's just happening. They're like, hey, I'll DM you to set up a time. This is just making it a little cleaner for the person to choose a time versus having all this back and forth in DM to do it.
Yeah, I did one last week and it was set for 30 minutes and I had to ask them for 30 minutes more permission to keep telling the rest because I ran out of time. So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Nice. Is there something else someone would like to talk to before we pass it on to the last question? 5, 4, 3, 2. So we will do our week.
Yes, Gene, I can help you. Gene, I can help you with the revisions of the old FAQs. I'll talk to you outside of the meeting if you want a hand with it.
Perfect. Thank you, David. So I will ask the question that we should ask weekly. How are you? Or really, how are you? So I will pass it on to everyone to say, how are you? And we will finish this call by doing this. And I will pass it on to Gideon.
No, really, how am I doing? I'm doing great. Yeah, things are going well on the personal front. Families we had some COVID cases and we're past those. Writing front, I'm doing a bunch of like personal writing right now. That's really been great. Just published the one on organizational design for the TEC medium. Yeah, I mean, life's good and it's sunny here. Okay, I will pass to Gene.
Thank you, Mr. Kitty. I'm glad that everybody's healthy at your place and writing's going well. I was pretty depressed last week and pretty down, so I'm happy to be trying to look forward and look up. I got myself pretty overwhelmed by just trying to do too many things and not doing anything effectively. So I'm trying to remedy that mistake and try to do one thing well and then move on to something. And pass to Mr. Edu, right up the list.
Thank you, Gene. And it was a hectic 72 hours flight back to Barcelona. No problem at all, but it's just, long and having babies on a flight is not very helpful. And so, yeah, you don't manage to sleep much. And my dad got COVID, so it's a weird combination of situation, but everything was handled and everything just good. So I spent a good weekend with my partner and having just quietness and silence and enjoying the silence of my house. Nothing feels like home, I guess. It's how I feel really right now. So I pass it on to Aloysius.
Hello. I'm alright. I kind of mentioned in the beginning that I'm going through a lot of reorganizational and financial restructuring in my home business. So that's been just absolutely stressful and exhausting, and I'm really missing tinkering
last week I got to a point like a couple nights where I started just writing a ton, and I haven't been able to get like a lot of thoughts out. So I just like I cleared some space and got a ton of thoughts out, and I feel like I'm right at the cusp of that. I'm about to set down a bunch of things that I've like worked on that I want to tell people about. I'm just like holding all this stuff that I know, and I like as soon as I set it down, I feel like I'll have space for like what's next. So I'm sitting in that like kind of like discomfort, unease of like really wanting that transition to happen for me because I'm ready for it. Yeah. Is that David? Peter David?
Thanks for all the honest comments by everybody so far. I'm doing pretty well. Also feel that burnout is real in this space. There's a bit less of external pacing sort of mechanisms. We have to set our own pace and try to set a pace that. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I guess I'm feeling. It was a real transition, and I traveled over Christmas, so to get there was this inertia of the holidays, and then the excitement of getting back, which is kind of like a tsunami of Web3 madness and joy and optimism, and so feel good. I feel like I'm working my butt off, and I feel a little bit guilty. I'm not helping out more as a guide, and I just want to express huge thanks to Manu and Jean for everything they've been doing. They've been really carrying the load. And also I want to recognize that like there's been some DeFi Web3 scandals breaking out with regard to Wonderland Finance that like people are talking about suicide in the forums because people got really wrecked. And so I guess I feel there's a bit of a heavy vibe going on this week. For that, joyous message over to Mert. See you guys next week.
Yeah, so I'm pretty good. Everything is good. Like there's no blockers, etc. I will be publishing my first ever crypto-related article.
Yay!
So yeah, I'll share it with you guys if you are interested. So everything is good. We are doing great in TC as well. We are doing great in Omega. Come join us. And that's it.
Pass it to you, Tim.
I will pass it to Eunice.
Well, I'm good. A little bit slower than when we started this call. But I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm alive. I'm here. You guys. So thank you. I totally love the track, so
No,
Yeah, thanks, Edu. Thanks, Inese. I mean, it's Monday. I feel like anyone who knows me knows it's my favorite day of the week. So I'm always feeling good on a Monday. It's like, yeah. So that's what I'm feeling like. But that's also, I think, also my MO a little bit. Things seem to be really, I mean, a lot of great things are happening in the TEC and Common Stack. A lot of great things are happening in the space. There's just so much going on. I guess, like I don't know, last time you asked this question, I was like, oh my God, we're getting a dog and I'm doing this trip. And so I've calmed down about that, actually. That was very disconcerting. It's just decisions weren't made yet. So it was like, I don't know if you have this, like, if I'm trying to make a decision, I can really chase my tail like a dope. And then once the decision is made, it just doesn't even matter. It's like, oh, okay, I'm totally cool. So decisions have been made, and I'm really cool about the dog. We'll have it in a month. We're going to ETH Denver. We're going to Vegas and Denver, and then Breckenridge, which is bananas, because who takes their own children to conferences, like to a crypto conference? Who does that? This dope. So that's going to be exciting to see how that plays out. But I guess that's the only thing, like, but everything's lined up now, so it's a matter of just going through it all. So I guess the one reservation I have is that, like, that could be a really big mistake. But I feel like at the end of the day, okay, we don't do it again is like the worst thing that's going to happen. Like, nothing terrible is going to happen. It'll just be like, well, it wasn't going to work out to take your kids to a conference, even though East Denver has free childcare. So they made it like irresistible, really. And
My dad used to take me to Condex, so it's
yes, and look how you turned out, Jean. Yes.
yeah. Sorry, not a great.
Oh, I meant the opposite.
And would you like to close at us, Anna, with how are you feeling? How are you, Asia? Are you there? If you are talking, you are muted.
I think that
Anna?
is the pronunciation Ajasha? Sorry, I'm also pronouncing it badly.
Jesus, you're calling me up again. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's been I have not expected anything like this that I've just experienced here, and I don't know exactly what to make of it yet. But I think things are looking positive from what I can see on the screen, and. Yeah, so I've been maybe to give some background. I've been to so many weird discords already, and like to the point where it actually got super annoying. And I mean, everybody has experienced that here. And like the only DAOs that I've really enjoyed so far were the ones where I knew pretty much like half of the people already, right? So starting extremely small and so on. But like this looks like a really different animal. So yeah, curious to see what's gonna happen, and I'm super stoked to dive deeper into things now. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve with TEC. And I think it would have not. I would have probably pushed it aside for the moment, but this 45 minutes have kind of sparked the flame. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being so welcoming, and yeah, looking forward to seeing more.
Thank you for staying with us. And yeah, I mean, this is part of our culture. We have space for technical work, but we also have space for personal people. We are a community building working group, so the personal aspect and the human aspect cannot be denied, and that's why we are giving this time to ask how is everyone. DW, sorry, we are about to finish our call. We are on top of our time. You're more than welcome to join or ask any question. DW in my DMs are open. So thank you everyone for joining today. I'm looking forward to see you next Monday. Take care. Have a lovely Monday.
Thanks, Eduardo.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Thank you, bye.